Here with Curt Kucera here,
Yes.
and we're going to talk about your beers first of all. So first of all, tell us about your brewery and about how you got started this excellent jar.
Sure. Well, Refuge Brewery got started a little over 7 years ago.
Right.
And it was kind of this notion of taking what we really enjoyed, we're passionate about in the garage, and trying to bring it to more people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had a huge neighborhood following, like a lot of home brewers
Sure.
find themselves.
Right.
And we decided to bring it out into a public setting. And the initial idea was to keep it kind of small and very quaint. And we started in this suite that we're in right here when we first launched. But we outgrew this pretty quickly after our beers got into the marketplace.
Right.
And saw a lot of popularity. I've been brewing since the late 80s.
Okay.
And always loved beers, loved Belgian beers in particular. You know, those are my most favorite beers. Mm-hmm. And kind of thought about what to name the place and what it meant to us. And we thought it's got to be this getaway that people can come to and really enjoy and have a sense of, you know, taking some time away from the world. And Refuge sounded kind of like a great name, and it kind of resonated with us because it was really the refuge that the monks out of France were taking when there was the French Revolution.
Right.
They made it as far as Belgium, started establishing their new religious cult sectors in there.
Right.
And then from that, they started developing the beers that they used to sustain themselves and also sell. And that kind of developed into these really cool beers we have today from Belgium. I thought it all kind of fit together in my mind. It's a refuge for us, it was a refuge for them, and it was kind of, you know, pivoted around Belgian-style beers.
Right. So is this a family operation? From what I've done my research, and your son's involved as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it is a family operation. We started up, my younger son, he was super interested in brewing beer, and I was the only one that really had the expertise at that moment in time. And so he went off to school in Chicago, Siebel, the oldest brewing school in North America.
Oh, wow.
And then he went on to Germany, in Munich, Germany, and studied at the Duman Academy over there.
That's impressive.
And then graduated with a international master brewers standing is what they do over there.
So how many of those are in the United States? You know, international brewers.
You know, I really don't know the total number, but the classes are relatively small over in Europe, and so you know they're around, but there's not a crazy number of them.
Right. Especially maybe like in this area, especially, he's probably the only one that I would think of. I don't know. Who knows?
I think he is the only one in this little regional area that I'm aware of, and he's he doesn't brew as much the day-to-day beers anymore. He focuses more on our exotic barrel type beers. Okay. So like one's called Allard that we just released recently, where we have a club where you can get these special one-off beers if you're a club member. Others can drink them in the tasting room, but if you're a club member, you get a bottle and take home, kind of like a wine club.
Sure, right.
And that particular beer was a dark Belgian strong ale, we call it Mystique, that was aged in red wine barrel, and then also aged in a cognac barrel that came back from over in France. So it was a barrel that started here, whiskey barrel, ended up in cognac for their processes.
It was traveling around.
Shipped back to us, and we aged half of it in there for only about 6 months, and then blended the two together. And that became known as Allard, which is one of these really nice barrel-aged beers. We'll try something like that in a few minutes here.
Right. It's just incredible how, I mean, brewers in the United States, America is getting more and more, I think, more into the craft beer movement instead of, you know, like the big mass production beers that we've had for a long time.
Right. Yeah, it's I mean, craft is kind of the expression, you know, that a chef might use in his food, or the expression that a small boutique winery might tend to use in their wines. And in the brewery industry, it's not a lot different. We tend to express ourselves through what we're excited about, and using the abundance of different materials and techniques and styles and hops and barrel aging, and it just goes on forever, what you can do with your product. It makes it really unique. So we do an awful lot of small run beers that are tasting room only.
Right.
And then we do some distribution beers around mostly Southern California.
Okay. So mainly just in Southern California, not really out of the state yet?
Yeah,
or?
but we toyed around with the out of state a little bit. You know, we shipped as far away as Hawaii, Colorado, Arizona, up in San Francisco area. And over time, we just kind of reflected back on why we started the company, and that was to have something that we felt was really serving the people in our neighborhood, serving our friends, and we decided to pull back from the complexity and the distraction of trying to grow ourselves too big, and look at what we really started it as and why we wanted to do this, and focus really here.
You mentioned chefs, and we interview a lot of chefs, and so I thought of this question right away. Usually we ask chefs this question: what advice would you give me, for example, if I've never made my own beer before, and what advice would you give me if I wanted to start that way and maybe develop and do something like this? What was the number one skill set you should have, or what advice would you give me?
I think the number one skill set a person really needs to have, it's kind of a double-sided one. It's discipline to follow the craft well. So there's certain rules you have to abide by in beer in terms of balance and production standards, in order to ensure you have a beer that's not infected with an off flavor, just like in a wine.
Just like wine, right?
Yep. So that's on one side of it, but then on the other side is that creative side. It's not be afraid to try some pretty wacky things, and I'm not a proponent of trying, putting Fruit Loops in beer, but people do that.
Right, Fruit Loop beer.
Yeah, they do. A lot of people do this really wild stuff, and I think that's exciting. It's not really where we're at as a company. I try to hold the tradition a little tighter than and make beer out of normal beer type materials. But we do a lot of fruited beers. We do a lot of flavored beers. We'll do beers in the wintertime that are brewed with teas or with pink peppercorns. The natural elements we can find around our valley here. We do a beer for our anniversary every year that is we just call them batch beers. They're our anniversary beers. So we're up to batch 7. And that's a beer where we actually partner up with one of the wineries locally here, because we're in wine country's backyard. Partner up with a winery. We obtain, some quantity of must from them, 50 or 100 gallons, and we blend that in with our beer while it's fermenting. And we ferment the wine must, so the pressings of the wine grapes, along with the beer in the same fermenter with beer yeast, and come up with this really kind of unique, it's almost champagne-like type of product, because it's obviously carbonated. But it's kind of rich and smooth on the palate, like a lot of beers are. Really a unique thing. And then we'll age it in barrels, wine barrels. So you get a lot of the oak flavors, a lot of the vanilla flavors out of the barrel, just like you would in a wine.
It sounds amazing. That's kind of cool. So you do seasonals like most people do, and all that. So
yeah, we do. Kind of the classic seasonals. We like, again, we like Belgian beers as much as we like IPAs.
Sure.
So we do a saison, throughout the year, but in the wintertime we'll do a Jack Daniel's barrel-aged saison, and we'll hit that with pumpkin puree while we're brewing it. So it'll be a pumpkin jack is what we call it. So it's a saison, so it has that extra tartness of a saison, but aged in a Jack Daniel's barrel, so you got the character of the Jack Daniel's. That sounds really, really good. And you got that back note of pumpkin flavoring in there, so it's beautiful.
I need to come back that time of year, and get some for sure. So before we go, you won several awards. So tell us about some of the awards that you won.
It's probably the most exciting award, is the one that we won for the Great American Brew Festival, which is held in Colorado every year. And it's more or less the Super Bowl of a beer contest for everybody in North America and even outside. And we won gold for our Blood Orange Wit just a couple years ago. And winning gold is phenomenal. But winning gold with your Blood Orange Wit is really our mainstay. It's our signature beer. It's the one we distribute the most about in the public. And it just proved to us that the Blood Orange product that we have is exceptional, and people love it, and that's why it won gold medal.
Well, we're going to go ahead and taste through some more of it. Thank you so much for getting us up to speed on what you're doing here.
Well, I'm glad you came to visit, and
thank you.
Let's enjoy some beers.
We're going to hang out. Until next time. See you soon.